Well, that ain't gonna work either. It's not that loud.
Okay. Let's try it.
Alright. I can always throw it away.
Yeah. I was looking at Facebook yesterday, and I noticed a little meme where an elderly lady was at the grocery store, and she walked up to the cashier, and the cashier was complaining about the plastic and the stuff like that, and how the older generation had ruined the planet for them. And she says, yeah, you're right. But she also explains that, you know, back in my day, in the old days, as the kids talk about it,
Yeah.
when you went down to the store and bought a Coke, it was in a glass bottle. And we returned that glass bottle to the store to be recycled.
I remember that.
Exactly. When we wanted something to drink, we didn't go get a plastic bottle of water. We went to the drinking fountain.
Yes. Or the faucet.
Or the faucet. Groceries. They use paper bags. Now, what did we do with those paper bags? You would fold them up flat. You would save them, use them for trash bags, to wrap presents, wrap school books.
Wrap the turkey to cook in the oven.
Yeah, you reused this stuff.
Yeah.
Now you have this plastic that ends up in the landfill, but yet we destroyed the environment.
Yeah.
I'm very confused about some of these things.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I mean, most of what we did from the 50s to the early 80s was recycling.
Yeah.
But now they're on this green thing kick.
Yeah.
Where you got to recycle, you got to do this, you got to do that. Well, why don't they just go back to what they used to do?
Yeah.
Be a whole lot more efficient.
It would, yeah. You remember those fog machines?
Yes.
They would come through.
Come through and spray for mosquitoes about once a week or once every couple of weeks.
Yeah, me and Faith used to run behind that thing in the fog.
Yeah, I know.
I know, right?
Yeah, it was fun playing in the fog.
Yeah. Probably killed a few brain cells, but...
Yeah, because when they first started, it would come through and it'd be that thick, heavy fog that would come across there, and it looked real spooky, and everybody'd go out and play in it.
Yeah. Used to play out in the rain.
Well, it didn't last.
I know.
Yeah. The street light, when that thing popped on, it was time to go home. And you
Yeah.
better be quick,
Yeah.
depending on how far from home you were.
Yeah. I remember going over to Mr. and Mrs. Frazier's, me and Faith.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. I loved going over there
Why?
because they were,
That sweet old couple
yes.
that always had cookies and lemonade and
Yes.
things like that.
And she'd make ice cream, and we'd help her turn the ice cream churn,
Yeah.
you know.
She'd always have some little project she was getting ready to do when you showed up. So she said, well, you help me with this and I'll go get the cookies.
Yeah.
Well, you were more than happy to start sitting there and do whatever it was. Didn't matter.
No. Go out there and pick grapes and
Yeah.
play in the yard. And
Or finish raking the yard.
the only time we ever had trouble with Mrs. Frazier is nap time.
Yeah.
I remember Aunt Edna. I don't remember. I mean, we must have been in Brunswick. I don't remember. But she was babysitting us. And we were supposed to be laying down for a nap. We were in there jumping up and down on the bed and stuff, and I kept peeking out the window to see. She was hanging clothes.
She couldn't hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she just mumbled.
Yeah.
Very hard to understand her.
When she come in the house, we laid down and got real quiet. She come and peeked in on us.
You know what? She could tell she's like y'all been.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
You didn't pull the wool over her eyes.
No, she was pretty smart. A lot of people thought she was just didn't know how to take care of herself.
Yeah.
They were very wrong.
They were, yeah.
I remember one time when she was with us, Mom and Dad would give her a little allowance every week. But she was living with us. And she would take care of us, what have you. All of a sudden, she came home one day with a record player and 3 or 4 records.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't understand why at the time. But she would sit next to that record player and put her hand on that speaker
Huh.
and listen to those albums.
I'll be doggone. I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
Wow.
But Mom got mad because she thought that somebody had taken advantage of her. And what we found out is she had saved up her money. So she had enough money to go down to the Western Union or Western Auto there and buy that record player.
Yeah. Daddy? I'm sorry.
She did have one flaw that we all kind of hated. Mom would buy that giant bag of cookies. Well, Aunt Edna loved them cookies.
Uh-oh.
And she would eat them cookies, blame it on us.
Oh, no.
She really was like a child, but she was really smart.
I'm getting hot. I forgot
Fix it where it belongs.
I forgot what I was going to say.
I'm sorry.
Not your phone.
She was a character.
She was.
She washed my mouth out with soap.
Yeah, you probably deserved it.
Now, I know she couldn't hear what I was saying, but she understood that I was angry and was saying bad words.
Oh, my goodness.
She used to want to go on dates with me. I could not go out on a date without her. And Mama went along with it.
Really?
Yes.
Well, heck, I didn't go out on a date until I was in the military. I graduated high school.
That was
I was
like
in the military.
my oldest sister, Donna.
You did. You went out with that boy.
That's right, I forgot. Uh-oh, I told you already. Oops.
Mom and Dad used to think that if they sent me on Donna's dates, that she would behave. Well, little did they know.
They knew how to get really good.
Well, what Donna would do is she would hand me $1 and disappear on me. Come
Oh.
back in a couple hours. Well, give me $1 at the arcade. I'm a happy little kid.
Yeah. Yeah. Who's Donna, by the way?
Donna's my oldest sister.
I always called her son.
Yeah, her nickname was Pumpkin.
Yeah.
Because that's what Dad used to call her when she was little. She was looked like a little brown pumpkin.
Yeah. That's cute.
And she hates that nickname to this day.
She does. I
Yes,
didn't
she
know
does.
that. Uh-oh. There.
We still call her that, and she tolerates it from family. But she'll tell friends and other people, "Don't call me that." Tina's son Sean, when we came up last year with the first load of furniture, I'm standing in the front yard, turned around and went, "Pon, come here." And he looked at me and he says, "What did you just call her?" I said, "Her nickname is Pumpkin." And he got a big grin on his face, and he started walking by going, "Pumpkin."
I bet that made her mad. Oh boy.
Yeah, some of the things we used to do were just amazing.
Yeah. It's guess I wonder if some of us are still alive.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
that time
I'm telling you.
Like that time I got on Ricky's car and he wouldn't
Oh.
let me off.
He would. I thought you wouldn't get off.
No, he wouldn't let me off.
Oh, I remember that. I got to
Oh,
So,
yeah.
and I ended up hurting my back because I had to get off.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got in trouble there in Darien a few times for riding on the roofs of cars through the middle of town.
Oh no.
God.
Like we were surfing.
Oh my goodness.
Sheriff's department come chasing us down. Call Dad.
Oh my.
That was it.
Oh no, we do it again. He'd just shake his head. You're gonna kill yourselves. It's like Dad's friend Warren. They grew up together. Warren stayed up in Douglas, Georgia, where Dad moved down to Brunswick and St. Simon's. Well, what we all never knew was when they got out of high school, just before they both joined the military, they had saved up all their money and bought a 100-acre piece of property.
Really?
Well, we always thought it was Warren's until just before my dad passed away. He had a briefcase in his hand, and he was insistent that he had to go to Warren's.
Huh.
And he was going to get there one way or another if he had to walk.
Oh my goodness.
Now, with his dementia and all, we were afraid he would get himself in trouble. So I took the day off from work and drove him up to Warren's. And Warren was the type of man, he ran the garbage service for all of Millersville, Douglas County, all of that stuff.
Right.
For many, many years, turned the business over to his son when he got ready to retire.
Right.
Well, on that 100 acres were no less than, I would say, 200 cars.
Uh-huh.
And every one of them ran when he pulled them onto that property. He had the old Studebakers, the Silver Hawks, the Golden Hawks.
Really?
He had Studebaker pickups.
What?
He had Chevrolet pickups that the city used to own that he would buy at auction,
Yeah.
4 or 5 at a time, drive them over and park them.
Huh.
He had 57 Chevrolets. There was one sitting there with a tree growing up the door on each side that was pushing the door in.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Well, when I looked out the back door and saw those cars out there, it's like, can I go look at some of the cars? And Warren says, you can look at anything you want to. Well, Dad and Warren walked over to his shop, and I went out to the field. And when I got back, Pop sat there, he says, you know, you look like a rabbit out there. Because he said, you disappeared down in the grass, he'd pop up over here, and you drop down and come out, and you pop up over here.
Wow.
I was just looking at all these old cars.
Yeah, I'd have been in heaven, especially with the old pickups.
But
For
anyhow,
some reason, I'm into old pickups.
while he and Warren were standing there in the shop, he opened that briefcase up and pulled the deed out to the property that showed he owned half of it, which we never knew, and signed it and gave it to Warren.
I'll be doggone.
Well, Warren kept telling him, Don, you own half of this. Well, he told Warren, he said, Warren, you have lived here for 50 years. You have paid the taxes on this property the whole time. He says, I know my time is getting short. I want you to have this.
Wow.
Because after we got back to the house, Warren actually called Mom and asked her, are you sure you're okay with this? Because she didn't know anything about it either.
Wow.
She thought it was Warren's property. He had kept that deed secret from her all those years.
I'll be doggone.
But it was a beautiful piece of land that started up at the highway, went up a little hill, and then straight down about 400 yards to the river. I mean, from the house you really couldn't see the river because of the tree line behind it,
Uh-huh.
but it was a beautiful piece of property. They had a little cabin right down on the river.
Sounds nice.
Yeah. Because he had a little fire in his garage there the year before. Done a little bit of damage, but they managed to get it out before it burned the whole building down.
Yeah.
And he was having a little bit of an issue with one of his tractors that there was sitting there, old diesel. He couldn't get it to start. It would spin over, and you could see the smoke coming out of it like it wanted to start. And I asked Warren, I said, do you have any tools handy? I said, I think I know what's wrong with it. Well, he says, well, there's some tools over in that, I think they're over in that building over there. So I dug around, come back with a bunch of wrenches, cracked all the fuel lines open. We spun it over a little bit. I locked them all back down. I said, all right, try it now. And he hit the key and it fired right up.
I'll be doggone.
He said, well, we've been sitting here for 2 years trying to get this tractor to start.
Oh, gosh.
He said, how did you know how to do that? I said, well, I went to school to learn it.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I remember Daddy out there in the field walking behind that tiller, the one that you're going to take home. And he wouldn't quit until he was done.
Yeah.
He would get out there and that thing would buck and
Yeah.
carry on. And
You have to lift your body well.
Yeah, it would jump up on top and walk off.
yeah, yeah. And then there were several times I went out there to help him plant because it was hot. It wasn't as hot as it's been lately.
Yeah.
But it was hot and he had health issues.
Yeah.
And that man, he was some. I hated it. I miss my daddy.
We all do. Yeah, it took me several years after mine passed away to kind of come to terms with it.
I know. You know, when Faith called me and said that they took Daddy to the hospital, she didn't tell me that he had died. But I was on my way to the hospital when she finally called me and told me he was gone. I wouldn't believe her.
The day my dad passed away, he hung in there long enough for all of us to get there and say our goodbyes. And we didn't expect him to go as quickly as he did because Mom was tired. She had been there for 2 days, and I decided to take her home so she could get a shower.
Yeah.
So we drove from Jacksonville, Florida up to Kingsland, Georgia, and we had just walked in the house and the phone rang. And it was Donna telling me that he had passed away.
I'll be down.
I made it back from Kingsland, Georgia to Jacksonville in 10 minutes.
What? How did you do that?
Very carefully. I can do that from here. That's
I have no idea how I never got pulled over. Mom had a little Toyota Matrix at the time. That car would run 140 mile an hour.
Dang.
And I think I had it flat on the floorboard going back. Mom was crying, so she really wasn't paying attention to how fast I was going.
Yeah.
Because when I pulled up in the parking lot, Joyce's husband, Whitey, looked at me and he says, we just called you. How did you get back here so quickly?
Did she ever get her shower?
No. Because she was just about to get in the bathroom there when I said, Mom, we have to go now.
Wow.
And James and I spent the rest of the day making the arrangements with the funeral home and what have you to pick up his body and what different things there.
Mm-hmm.
And the funeral director there tried to pull a little bit of a fast one. And I had already talked to Mom about what he wanted. And because Pop was kind of out of it by then. And he had jacked the prices up a little bit, and I went, nope, we're not doing that. And I stood there and talked to him for a few minutes, and James said, well, I'll make up the difference, don't worry about it. I said, no, James, Mom's already talked to this gentleman, and he quoted her a price, and he's going to honor that price.
Yeah. Well, it's only fair.
Yeah. Well, when he realized that I knew what I was talking about, he, okay, if you've already spoken to us.
Yeah.
He was trying to charge us $3,000, and Mom had already prepaid for that, $1,800.
Wow.
Now we did end up having to pay $125 for the urn, but he flat refused to put that in there, and it's said in the contract it came with it. That was the only time I kind of balked at anything there. And James had his hand on my shoulder, making sure I stayed calm.
Yeah.
I don't believe in people cheating women because they're women. That's wrong to me.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up with my sisters, you always want to protect them.
Yeah.
It's just, I can't do that.
That's like Daddy going with me to get my cards. Yeah, and he was always there, making sure they didn't cheat me.
Yeah. Well, that little car Mom had, when the salesman was out there, he kept coming over and asking me, do you think this will be the car you'll want? I said, it's not my car. She's the one that's going to be driving it.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to make her happy, not me.
Yeah.
And when we sat down to do the paperwork, I told the guy, I said, okay, now I just have one issue here. I said, my mother drives from where she works to her property 20 miles away through woods, 2-lane roads, dirt roads, what have you. If this car breaks down, she's not going to be happy. She's going to call me. If she has to call me, I'm not going to be happy. We ended up getting a lifetime warranty on the car.
Wow.
A 100,000-mile engine warranty.
Mm.
And Tina's son used to sell Toyotas at the Toyota dealership in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
When he found out what kind of warranty we had, he said, how did you get that warranty? I can't even give those out.
Wow.
And he was one of their top salesmen.
Huh. How about that?
But I never raised my voice to that salesman. I just told him, I said, she's not going to be happy. She's going to call me, and that's going to make me unhappy. Because we took the car back 2 months later for its service.
Yeah.
And they called us and said, we have an issue. We're going to need to keep the car a little longer, so you keep the loaner. Turns out, when they drained the oil, they found little metal shavings in it. So they replaced the engine.
Oh,
Put a
really?
brand new one in it.
How did that go? Wow.
Which was a nice thing.
I know.
That was a very nice little car. Even though it was a small car, it was fun to drive. If you weren't careful, you could look down and be doing 100 miles an hour.
Except for me and my car.
Yeah. Mama has a little bit of a leg foot too.
Yeah.
She has to keep her eye on the speedometer because the cruise control don't work.
That reminds me of a car Mom used to drive when we were kids.
Oh my God.
It was I believe it was a 1954 Buick.
Mm-hmm.
One of the big old lead sleds.
Okay.
Yeah.
It had a problem. You'd drive it after a while and the carburetor would start to flood. And it would catch fire.
What?
Well, we're all in the car one day, and all of a sudden you see smoke coming out of the hood, and she pulled over to the side of the road. Well, our normal thing was open the hood, get the rags, put the fire out, sit there a few minutes, and we go on. She says, nope, don't touch that car. she let that car burn to the ground.
She did.
She was tired of it.
Oh.
She wanted Pop to buy it. She'd been telling him for about 3 or 4 weeks she wanted a new car. She's tired of that one. So she let that car burn up.
I'll be doggone. Had the fire department and everybody out there, huh?
Well, but by the time the fire department got there, back then they were all volunteer. So
Yeah.
it'd take them a while to get from the job to the fire house, get the truck, get to the...
Oh, Lord.
The car
It was already
the car
burnt
was
to the-
already history by the time they got there and put it out.
Oh, my gosh.
Pop was so mad that day. But it was nice because what he showed up with next was a 1963 Cadillac.
Oh.
There you go. They always had Cadillacs.
Oh, okay.
Well, those were the only cars that all 9 of us would fit in at one time.
They were big cars back then.
Yeah, yeah, I remember. They were like boats.
Yes. And Mom drove that Cadillac for 3 or 4 years after that, blew the motor in it right downtown Winter Haven.
Yeah, I was with her.
Tell Mom what they've done to Lost Grove out there in Frostproof.
Oh.
I don't think she heard.
All right, if you come in from Frostproof on that
Yeah.
one dirt road, at one point there was a road that teed off and went over across to the other side over there that went down and behind the lake and in towards Babson Park.
Yeah.
All right, they put a gate right there at that intersection and sold all that property down to the lake to 2 families.
What?
Yeah. None of the barn or anything like that is down there anymore. There's 2 brand new houses back in there.
Oh my God.
On the other side over there, you still have orange groves in that area. But when you cut across and start down and go head towards the little lake that was behind the 2 houses,
Yeah.
and you had the little guy that had his fancy house across the lake, well, just before you get to his driveway, they paved the road from there all the way into Babson Park. Well, as you go down through there, you had that little sharp little S that went through the woods
Yeah.
and under the railroad track.
Yeah.
All right. From that railroad track to Babson Park, there are no groves left in there. It's all subdivisions.
All those Tangelos.
Paved roads and subdivisions.
Oh, what a shame.
I know. I'm glad I don't live back there no more.
I have eaten many a candle.
I know.
I mean,
We could go out in the groves and just pick the oranges.
yeah, and eat half of them on the way home.
Yeah.
If you want a good orange, a Tangelo is the best
I
one.
know.
It sure is.
And that grove was stuck kind of in the middle of nowhere, behind all the other standard Valencia groves. You're just all of a sudden there's these bright oranges hanging on these trees, and they were so delicious.
They were. They were. And those Tangelos were good.
Yeah,
too.
they were the size of grapefruits.
Exactly. Man. And from what I understand, they're a cross between an orange and a tangerine.
Right,
They call them Tangelos.
right. They
They
were
were
sweet, large.
wonderful. Can't find them no more.
Yeah. I have not seen a Tangelo since probably the mid 80s, late 80s. Not been able to find any.
Mm.
Because you used to go to some of the fruit stands down there and still be able to find them.
Yeah.
Well, when you come to the crossroads, they don't have that Tangelo grove there.
Nope. It's gone. They clear cut everything and put housing developments in there. All those dirt roads back through there are paved now.
I gotta make a trip back. I gotta see that.
Oh, I'd cry.
It was when I cleared that, went underneath that railroad track there, and they went back through there. It's like, what the heck? There was just no more groves. Remember that big 16-cylinder diesel engine they used as a pump that was sitting there in the
Yeah.
shed? Gone.
Mm.
Even the wellhead is gone.
Wow.
Because it was so much fun watching Dad go in there and start that thing up.
I
Because he'd
know.
go around and set up 4 guns, those huge water guns.
Yeah.
Then he'd go down and he'd start the engine up, and he'd have it sitting there idling, and he'd reach over, grab that transmission lever, and pull it over into gear, and never rev the engine up, sitting there idling, putting out 70 pounds of water pressure on 4 guns.
Yeah. I remember when we were little, you would take Daddy his lunch. He always worked in the groves as long as I remember, except for one time when he was driving for Troy Land.
Yeah.
And we'd go out there, Mom would take his lunch, and he would be laying the irrigation pipes.
Yeah.
And the water running, and we go, me and
You go play in the water.
yeah, we go play on the pipes. Enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And then as we got older, and he got hired out at Alico, out there where you were talking about,
Yeah.
we would go with him to turn the pumps on.
Yeah.
Or check the pumps.
Check, make sure the sprinklers were still running.
Yeah.
Because those sprinklers would jam up every now and then. Because Dad and I went out to check them one night about 2 in the morning, and we're going down the dirt road running about 40 miles an hour, and all of a sudden the truck nosedived into a hole there, and we crashed where the gun had gotten stuck and washed the road out.
Holy crap.
Totaled the truck.
Oh my goodness.
Pop and I both had bloody noses where we hit the dash.
Oh no.
Mom got mad at him, wouldn't let me go out with him at night anymore.
Aw. That's sad.
I still managed to sneak out. But
I bet you did.
There was one night that I was with Leroy, and we went to check his motor right there at the house on motors. And he got back in the truck, and I said, "What is that thing smoking in?" And he looked at it, and he got back out, and if he hadn't turned the thing off, he would have burned it up.
I'll be doggone. What was wrong with it? Yeah. It's a good thing you said something.
I know, I just looked at it and it was really smoking.
Wow.
what was fun to me was getting up in the morning and watching all the tractor drivers come into the barn, get their piece of equipment for the day, fuel it up, fill it up with chemical or whatever, and head off in different directions.
Yeah, yeah. I remember a many a Christmas that Dad wouldn't be there because he'd be out.
Checking a pump or a
Yeah.
sprinkler, or
That
just
would
something.
aggravate me today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right before he got laid off, he wasn't doing too good.
I know he was in and out of the hospital.
Yeah.
Spent more time at the hospital than I did at home.
Yeah, I think the year after my dad quit there and went back to body work was the year that I had all the issues. Because I had broken my collarbone, had appendicitis, had tonsillitis, and cracked my skull open.
How did you do that?
Well, the shoulder, I was running downhill on a bicycle, and at the bottom there was a sharp 90-degree right turn. Well, the man that lived at the bottom of the hill had parked his car outside the hedge there on the street,
Uh-oh.
and there wasn't enough room to make the turn.
Oh, no.
So I hit the curb, sailed over the hedge, and landed in his yard.
Oh, have mercy.
He was there raking leaves up when I come flying through.
Did you land on the leaf pile?
No, I didn't. I missed the leaf pile,
That's
rolled
too
through the
bad.
yard, got up, dusted myself off, started to ride the bicycle back up the hill, and I started to feel funny. Couldn't catch my breath, just dizzy. and got to the top of the hill, and the lady that lived across the street from us was backing out of the driveway with her daughter going shopping, and saw me coming down the road on walking the bicycle, and made me get in the car. And she says, "I need to take you to your mama." Well, I didn't realize that I was injured at the time. I just kept telling her, I'm out of breath. I just need to go to the house and rest. And she insisted that she take me to Mom. Well, we get there, and of course, I've got a broken shoulder. They got to take me to the hospital and reset it.
Bless your heart. Well, Sam had an accident.
A month later,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was having stomach pain. Couldn't eat anything, throwing up all the time. Mom takes me to the clinic, got appendicitis. They rushed me to the hospital.
Wow.
1 month after that,
What?
my tonsils went bad.
Oh, God.
And then a couple of months after that, I was at school, and we were in PE, back when they had physical education in high schools.
Yeah.
And the coach said we could play some touch football. Well, you know, kids back then did not play touch football.
No.
Well, I lined up against one of my friends on the other side, and when the ball snapped, we hit head to head. Both of us fell back. Get up, walk back up to the line. I'm mad now because he knocked me over. I lean down for the next play, and he looks up at me, and he stands up and goes, "You're bleeding." And I'm looking at him going, "What?" And I did kind of brush the side of my face with a red all over my hand. So, of course, the girls are doing their little PE class over at the volleyball court there, and I decided, let me just have some fun. And I walked right through the middle of them. Well, they're screaming and hollering because I got blood all over me. Their teacher runs to me. It's like, "Oh my God, you're dying."
Oh, Lord.
We get into the gym, and she's wanting they call the school nurse down, and the school nurse says, "I'll just put a Band-Aid on and let him go back to class." Well, the two coaches realized I had done a little more damage than a Band-Aid was going to fix.
Yeah.
So they finally convinced her to go ahead and call Mom. Mom comes to the school, takes one look at me, and just chewed that school nurse up one wall down the other.
Really?
I had split my eyebrow completely open.
Wow.
Took 11 stitches to close it up.
My word.
And I had a hairline fracture running up. But just little things like that back when we were kids. Yeah, brush it off, put a Band-Aid on it, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Sam had a motorcycle, and he got in an accident. Tell that story, Mom. I don't know all the details.
Well, he had the accident on his curve, and he was sitting beside the road, and the lady from the dairy came by and seen him, picked him up and took him to the hospital.
Really?
Yeah. He had a hole in his head.
Good gracious.
The doctor didn't see it while we were there, and he kept repeating himself. He'd ask the same questions over and over and over. So I went to the doctor. He was in the other room, and I told him, I said, "He keeps saying the same things over, asking us the same questions." I said, "There's something wrong with him." And he went back and checked his head real close, and he had a hole where the helmet had broken stuck in the head.
I'll be doggone.
I scared Mom half to death one day, right after I got my first motorcycle. Dumb kid. I knew how to ride it. You know, got real cocky, and I was going down a long straight stretch there, running wide open. Forgot there's a 15-mile-an-hour curve at the other end.
Right.
And I sailed off, went through the orange grove. got the bike out from under the tree, drug it back over to the road, got it all the dirt dug out of it, cracked it back up, rode back to the house. Well, when I walked through the door, Mom panicked because I was cut from one end to the other.
Oh,
Because
wow.
orange trees have thorns on
Yeah,
them.
they have big thorns.
And those,
Big thorns.
and those thorns had just shredded my clothes.
Holy smokes.
But I told Mom, it's like, Mom, just calm down. Let me go take a shower and we'll see how bad the damage is.
Yeah.
Wasn't really hurt. I was just scratched from head to toe.
Yeah.
And when I went back around there, you could see a perfect little tunnel like the cartoons used to make through 3 trees.
My goodness. That's funny. Yeah, me and Faith and
I learned that day that the minute you think you have control of a motorcycle, it's going to teach you otherwise.
Yeah, yeah. Faith and I, there was one or two Christmases, we decided we were going to make our own money and buy Christmas presents with it.
Right.
So we went to work in the grove picking oranges.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want you to know that was hard work.
Yeah.
Those big old heavy bags you had to, and those ladders were not.
Those were the
Wow.
ricketiest ladders you ever saw in
Yeah,
your
but
life.
they were heavy as all
Yeah.
get out.
Weighed 200
For a
pounds.
teenage Sometimes we had to get one of the guys to help us because
Yeah.
we tried to manage on our own, but
Yeah.
man, those things were heavy. I tell you what, I built up some muscle.
We made some money then.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I supplemented my income doing that one year because I had a pickup with some state sides on it, and you could get $60 for a full load on a pickup truck.
Yeah.
But it would take you a day to fill that pickup up.
Oh yeah. Yeah, buddy.
Because I found a couple of crews of guys that, different ethnicities, black guys, Mexicans, Chinese guys, white guys, that would all get in their pickups and go out to certain groves and they'd pick them.
Mm-hmm.
So I got on with that crew and I'd go out there and like you say, those were the ricketiest, heaviest ladders you ever saw in your life.
Yeah.
But they held you up.
Yeah, and most of them were about 20 feet long.
I know, right?
Did you know Country went out with us one day and she climbed up in the tree and was picking away and all of a sudden she goes right down through the limbs.
Yeah.
She fell off that tree.
She reached a little too far and slipped.
Wow. Did she get hurt?
Mama did. She was bruised up.
Yeah.
I think that was the last time she picked oranges.
It was. She never went back up. Ever again.
I did that for a whole winter. Went there to make extra money for the family because we were struggling at the time.
Yeah.
But it helped quite a bit, and I did whatever I had to do to keep the family fed.
Yeah.
I worked a bunch of odd jobs. Worked as a night clerk at a 7-Eleven.
Really?
Yeah.
I bet that was fun. You meet a lot of shady characters.
Well, it was a slow shift. You'd get maybe 3-4 people an hour. Mostly trucks coming through, stopping, getting their stuff to go out to the groves, different things like that. Truck drivers coming through, getting something to eat. But that shift was mainly you restock the store, clean the store, restock all the coolers,
Yeah.
get
Mop the
everything ready for the
floor.
day. Do all the inventory and stuff like that.
Uh-huh. There was one night I was driving for Alderman Transport at the time. That little convenience store right across Crooked Lake.
Yeah, that's the store I worked for.
Yeah. Or South Lake Wells.
Yeah.
I always, every time I come by there, I would stop and get me a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Well, one night I stopped and I was getting my coffee, and some guy come in and pointed a gun at the clerk, and I ducked down behind the shelf. I did. I was scared. Let me tell you. I ducked down behind the clerk, the shelf. Never did get a mental picture of this guy.
Yeah.
Because the cop
You saw
kept
the gun.
Yeah, exactly. The cop kept asking me, what did this guy look like? I have no clue.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what he was wearing.
You don't focus on the person. You focus on that gun.
Exactly. And I was...
It was a
I
big
kept
black
praying.
gun, what he was wearing.
Yeah. I kept praying that the clerk would be okay. You know,
Yeah.
that he wouldn't shoot the guy, because we had become friends.
Yeah.
You know, and I was so scared for him.
Yeah.
I really was. And he got in a car, had somebody driving, if I remember right, and they took off. Went toward Lake Well.
I got a ticket at that same store. Pulled up to get gas. I was driving a Trans Am at the time, and when you would put it in gear, it would bark the rear tires a little.
Yeah.
And I got a ticket for an improper start from park position.
Ooh.
Because when I dropped it into gear, it barked them tires right there at the pump.
Oh. Shame on you.
And that little sheriff's deputy was hiding behind the dumpster.
Oh my goodness.
He wasn't happy with me because I told him he needed a new pair of glasses because the ones he was wearing wasn't working right.
No, you did.
Yes, I did too. I was trying to get him to take me to jail. He wouldn't do it.
Probably, dog. Why'd you want to go to jail?
When you looked at the car and realized how much horsepower I had added under the hood, there was no way you could ever put the car in drive without it barking those tires.
Oh.
It would give it that little
Yeah. Okay.
Every time I did it, the car would do that.
Yeah.
And he was just not hearing it.
Huh.
Because I didn't just take off. I put it in drive, it did that little chirp, and then I eased off.
Huh. We're almost at an hour. I guess we ought to.
Yeah, you'll have to
Yeah.
edit that down a little bit. Been great.
Yep.
Have a good day.
Yes, and please don't forget to subscribe. I need y'all's help. Share the video, subscribe, and like my videos. And don't be shy. Leave me a comment. I love comments. But y'all have a wonderful day.